Hey everyone, Anders here with another Black Desert video. Today we are going to go over the Awakening Maegu release on test server. We're going to go over all of her skills, her tooltips, add-ons, combos, and give you an idea of how she is grinding on test server. Remember, these classes always get changes when they hit live servers, so we should see damage changes in PvE and PvP when she releases on July 5th for all regions on PC. That said, from the get-go, I can tell you damage in PvE will more than likely increase as her base damage is a little low, especially if we compare it to Succession Maegu. I'm going to do this a little differently this time. We will go over all of the skills, of course, but I will be explaining how the class works and what skills are meant to do what in a broader sense. So this won't be the typical condensed first look I usually do when classes release here on test server. It will be much broader, but I will have chapters so you can skip to whichever topic you are interested in. Let's start with the basic Awakening attack. Really not much to talk about here, but it does have a floating CC, which is unusual. So if you find yourself needing a float, you at least have a backup with the LMB skill. Let's next talk about the Awakening buff. This skill is going to give you 25 AP for 30 seconds, critical hit rate plus 30% for 30 seconds, 1000 max HP increase, again for 30 seconds, and it's going to give you a buff every time you enter the Spiritforged state. This means every time you use a skill that activates your Fox Spirit, you gain 15% evasion rate and 10% air attack damage increase for 5 seconds. Spiritforged is the main mechanic for Awakening Maegu. The way it works is by simply using a skill and then linking that to a correct type of skill right after. So if you do this correctly, you will enter the Spiritforged state at level 1. This level will give you 2.5% more critical hit damage and will last 20 seconds. If you then use the correct link of skills, you will increase your Spiritforged level to 2, and this state will give you 5% critical hit damage and will last 10 seconds. If you then again use the correct link of skills, you will increase your Spiritforged state to level 3, which is the max level. In this state, you will gain a 10% critical hit damage buff lasting 5 seconds. The idea is to continue using links of skills to maintain your Spiritforged level as high as possible. The skill I'm showing you here is called End of Summer. It is an 18-second cooldown skill that will allow you to consume your Spiritforged stacks and heal depending on how many stacks you had when you used End of Summer. I can tell you right now, you will probably never use this skill in PvE since the sustain for both mana and health in Awakening is one of the best I've ever seen. I'll go over Spiritforged links after we finish the skills overview, but for now keep in mind that some skills initiate the Spiritforged state and others benefit from being in that state. The next skill we're going to take a look at is the W+RMB skill. This will be your prime initiator skill. It rushes you forward, deals damage, and enters you into the Spiritforged state. It is also super armor and gives you a 20 DP buff for 10 seconds. WF is the Awakening version of your WF mobility skill in Succession. The distance you travel is longer but deals a large amount of damage and has no collision to allow you to pierce through mobs. Really good skill, but as with some of the Awakening's mobility skills, they do need some tweaks to make them less awkward to use, since the speed at which you travel is quite fast compared to her normal movement. SHIFT+RMB is a high damaging AoE skill with HP recovery on hits and forward guard. It is also a Spiritforged initiator, so you'll be using this to enter that state and set up other skill links. SHIFT+LMB is a high damaging ability with no protection, a floating CC, and a DP minus 20 debuff for 10 seconds. This skill will also initiate Spiritforged. Its flow skill deals even more damage and is protected by a forward guard. This flow can also initiate Spiritforged. SHIFT+F is an unprotected stiffness CC ability that is the first we see to benefit from being in the Spiritforged state. If you use this while you have Spiritforged stacks, this skill will gain a down attack modifier, have a much faster animation, and a larger AoE. Its flow is super armor and will also benefit from your Spiritforged stacks. This time it will gain 2 more hits, a down attack modifier, a faster animation, and a larger AoE. A+RMB or D+RMB is also your C-swap ability when moving from pre-awakening to the awakening stance. This is a low cooldown ability with super armor, a floating CC, and also benefits from your Spiritforged stack. It will gain 2 more hits and a larger AoE. You can also spam this skill and deals okay damage even while on cooldown, allowing you to use this to grind low-end zones with ease since the stamina consumption isn't too high. One of the best skills in Awakening. SHIFT+Q is your strongest skill. It deals high damage, is super armor, is a Spiritforged initiator, and deals a 30% attack, casting, and movement speed debuff for 5 seconds. This is also your 100% BSR, which I'm happy to say is really good. Very fast animation and high damage. The speed debuff will also increase to 40% when using your 100% BSR, a really good skill overall. SHIFT+E is an unprotected high damaging skill with a stiffness CC and a knockdown CC. This skill can be animation cancelled and can be used to enter your Spiritforged state. S+RMB is a low cooldown ability that will grant you with a 20 AP buff for 10 seconds. If you have Spiritforged stacks, it will gain a larger AoE and a faster animation. The Q skill is a low cooldown floating CC ability that again will benefit from your Spiritforged stacks. This time it will get 2 more hits and a larger AoE. RMB is one of the best skills in your kit. It is a low cooldown semi-protected skill having an iframe at the beginning, and it will grant you with a 30% crit rate buff for 10 seconds. The cooldown is just 5 seconds, so you will always have this buff active. If you also happen to have Spiritforged stacks, it will gain 1 more hit and gain a down attack modifier. SF is a super armor vacuum ability that deals good damage and benefits from your Spiritforged stacks. It will gain a larger AoE and a down attack modifier. S+LMB is a low cooldown unprotected ability with a 5% air attack damage buff for 5 seconds. If you have Spiritforged stacks, it will have increased AoE and a faster animation. And finally, the F skill is a mobility attack. It is super armor, deals good damage, and benefits from the Spiritforged state. It will teleport you to the front of your enemy, give you a faster animation, and add 2 more hits to the skill. Really good skill, but can take some getting used to. Core skills or bonds in this class are really good. SHIFT+RMB can gain a floating CC, which would be good in PvP. SHIFT+LMB can gain a forward guard, which is good since the skill is a little on the slow side. SHIFT+F can gain a forward guard, which is good for both PvP and PvE. SHIFT+E can gain super armor, which is my choice of a bond skill since the skill also has a stiffness CC and a knockdown CC. SHIFT+Q can gain a knockdown CC, which again is very good for PvP. All of these choices are solid. You really can't go wrong with any of them. So we've read what the skills do. Let's see how the class actually functions. First thing I checked with new classes is sustain, so I went to Hex, turned off potions, and grinded packs using just 2 skills, well mostly A+RMB and RMB. These allow you to almost permanently give you Spiritforged stacks. The only downside is that you're really not going to be doing much damage. The upside is that, well, you're also not really getting hit either because the iframe from RMB and the movement from A+RMB just keep you going. You throw in some high damaging abilities from time to time, you're pretty much all set. SHIFT+RMB also heals you for a ton. Mana was also not an issue. Probably the best sustain I've seen in a long time. So we established the class has good sustain. Damage was not looking too good. Need to figure out how to do a good combo, of course. Can we do an infinite combo with this new mechanic that we have? Well, yes, you can. Let's take a look at this monstrosity I have made. It is very long, but it lasts about 12 seconds or so. But I'm actually showing you this to help lay out how this class actually works. The yellow highlighted skills show us initiator skills. The ones that follow are skills that benefit. If you don't initiate the state of Spiritforged before using the other skills, you basically deal no damage. However, once you get that train going, it is unreal how high of an APM class Awakening Maegu is. With my ping to the test server, it was pretty hard to keep up, so if you have higher latency, it may be difficult to actually play this class. So let's take a look at the combo. You start with W+RMB into RMB into S+RMB. Again, apologies because I'm going to be saying a lot of inputs. We don't have the names, we have the Korean names, we don't have the English names right now. But anyway, this link is about 1.5 seconds long, even though it's 3 skills. It's going to put us into the Spiritforged state thanks to the W+RMB skill. It's going to give us 30% crit rate thanks to the RMB skill, and it's going to give us 20 AP buff thanks to the S+RMB skill. This link will also take us to level 3 Spiritforged, which is the max level, and will give us a 10% crit damage buff for 5 seconds. Next up, we use SHIFT+LMB into S+LMB to give us a DP debuff on the target and an air attack damage buff. we have to then use SHIFT+Q to maintain the Spiritforged level 3 state and also slow down monsters. Follow that by using Q to animation cancel into SHIFT+E, into RMB for the crit rate buff refresh, into S+LMB for the air attack damage refresh. You finally end the combo with SHIFT+F into SF for big damage. You can then start the combo all over again as long as you want. It is infinite if you really want to. Realistically, you won't be able to do this combo till you get used to the class, so I want you to think about Awakening Maegu as not just a learn a combo and be done with it class. It really doesn't work that way. You have to learn links instead. So let's break down two main strings of skills from this combo I just showed you. The first one uses SHIFT+Q, which is our highest damaging ability. We can spam A+RMB, RMB as much as we want, and then use SHIFT+Q string to keep that level 3 Spiritforged state. Then use a second string of skills we have, go back to A+RMB, RMB dancing, then when SHIFT+Q is up again, do that string of skills all over again, and just bounce between these two mini combos as you grind mobs. It's not really efficient by all means, but we're going to have some changes to all of these skills in a few days anyway, so it's better to think about how the class works right now rather than what combo to use day one. Of course, I'll have a video day one about what combo we can use, but I think it's important to understand how Awakening Maegu actually functions, because I wouldn't call Awakening Maegu beginner friendly. Succession does remain a much easier spec in my opinion. If you are starting out with Black Desert Online, Awakening Maegu is definitely not the one to start with because of the high APM needed. Speaking of succession though, we can use pre-awakened skills of course, and I highly recommend you do because they still do some damage even after today's absolute nerfs, so don't be afraid to stance dance. Your level 3 Spiritforged buff is going to last 5 seconds, remember that, which gives you enough time to use Flower Shroud into something like Spirited Away or Spirit Swirl, then C-swap RMB to maintain your level 3 stacks and continue your Awakening combo. Especially in PvP, I would recommend swapping back and forth since the pre-awakened kit is still really good. As far as I have tested, there is no way to swap into Awakening outside of the C-swap, and the best way I found to swap to pre-awakening was by using the SE skill or the Flower Shroud skill. Moving on, let's talk about add-ons really quickly. You have just one tier 3 add-on in Awakening, and that is your SHIFT+Q skill. Everything else is tier 2. The A+RMB skill is tier 1. These were the add-ons I was using for testing, mostly looking at crit rate, crit damage, back attack damage, stuff like that. Very experimental. You do have that 30% crit rate buff from RMB, but the extra 20% from add-ons won't hurt and will help you deal more DPS. Let's take a look at this chart as well with all the skills we have. Right now, you can see that our damage when we use the Spiritforged state is a lot better than if we weren't to do that. Like I said at the beginning of this video, damage is still on the low end in my opinion, but they have said we should see damage changes and drastic changes to some skills when it releases in a couple of days, and they don't tend to say that stuff. They say things may change when it goes live. They were very precise in their wording about drastic changes coming to some skills. So what do I think about Awakening Maegu? If she gets more PvE damage, she will be about on par with Succession Maegu, but it'll take more effort. PvP, it's hard to say, honestly. In duels, I think she's going to be good, but in large scale, you're better off with Succession Maegu because of the ranged damage. All that said, I'm going to be playing Awakening Maegu. It's been a while since I've had genuine fun trying to figure out how a class works. Of course, things may change, but the core mechanics of Awakening Maegu is actually fun and feels rewarding when you combo correctly, which I gotta say I'm not doing often. So right now, if you would ask me what kind of rating I would give her, I would put her way above Awakening Wusa if we were to compare her to the last Awakening release. That's it for this one. Let me know what you think about Awakening Maegu in the comments down below. She will be releasing July 5th. I may have an outfit giveaway on the Discord around that time. The outfit for Awakening looks really good. So if I do have one, I'll post something over there. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'll see you all in the next one. Take care.